Night of the Living Dead, 1968, directed by George A. Romero. A ragtag group of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to. Let me start that again.
Hey Jordan, what are we watching next week?
Night of the Living Dead, 1968, directed by George A. Romero. A ragtag group of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to remain safe from bloodthirsty, flesh-eating breed of monsters who are ravaging the east coast of the United States. They're zombies.
Epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. The murders are taking place in villages, cities, rural homes, and suburbs with no apparent pattern or reason for the slayings.
I had never seen this movie before or really been much familiar with the franchise at all. I liked it for sure as a movie. In a more general sense, it made me appreciate for the first time how recent the zombie apocalypse genre is. Like, it never occurred to me until watching this and doing some research that this was really the first movie in that genre, and the first movie to feature kind of the modern archetype of zombies as we have them now. So it was very interesting for me to see a film with zombies that was where they were presented as something that was truly like unexpected. Like in modern zombie movies now, it seems like all the characters are like, it's zombies. We know these. We know what that's like. But to see a movie where it's presented as something that's totally unprecedented and that the characters and the government and the military have no concept for, and you see throughout the movie as they're piecing together exactly what these creatures are, I thought it was just interesting as sort of a cultural experiment to watch a zombie movie through that lens just so early in the genre. And then, so just as a movie itself, I just thought it was really well shot. I was a big fan of the acting, especially the guy that played Ben. I feel like had a very realistic, nuanced performance that you rarely see, I feel like, in a lot of movies that old. And yeah, overall, I was a very big fan of this movie.
I really liked this movie a lot. And I agree with what Nathaniel said. The actor who played Ben, Dwayne Jones, did amazing as the lead. They wrote him to be so intellectually sound and very like level-headed for a horror movie, which doesn't happen very often at all. It's very well done, very feels ageless. It feels like, honestly, if they released it today, like there were things that they did in it that still feel very effective. I still think it works even today. The only like real mistakes that I noticed, like filmmaking wise, was
So I loved it. I think a lot of times it's so easy to go back to a defining movie of a genre, and so many times it's easy to feel as though that movie feels old and stale now, because it created so many tropes that so many lesser movies have cashed in on. I've said before, I feel like Die Hard is one of those examples. Die Hard invented so much for the action genre, but all those things have been done so much that now Die Hard feels cliche. Somehow, Night of the Living Dead struck gold in really making it feel clear and making you feel aware that it invented the zombie genre. It's so interesting hearing this, because there's multiple stories going on the same night, both in a direct narrative level and in an overall artistic level, because you have these individuals in this house trying to make it through the night, and the country trying to make it through this disaster. And it's so interesting seeing how their thoughts on these evolve. At first, it just seems like it's a series of murders. And I think what makes the ending so fascinating, the whole ending isn't just, oh, well, him dead. And it's not even from the camera's perspective, which I feel like in this film, narratively, the camera represents just reality itself. It transitions to still photographs of all these characters dead, which kind of brings you back to the concept that there is no human main character of the story. And at the end of the day, They're just pictures, they're statistics in this huge, confusing night that they're trying to figure out.
Another thing of note is that Dwayne Jones is like a black protagonist in 1968 who's like, I think George A. Romero said in an interview that he cast him in the lead role because he literally had the best audition. And he was originally written to be more of I think he's supposed to be written as a trucker. And he played him more, like I said before, like more intellectual and more like calm and collected and like, hey, I'm very like, I feel like I know what's necessary to get things done, and I feel like I understand like what we need to do to survive.
In the way that like the TV show Schitt's Creek kind of portrays a world where homophobia doesn't exist, like it just portrays like characters and all these people who don't even blink an eye or make jokes about it or anything. I feel like, though it probably wasn't intentional on George A. Romero's part, he kind of portrays a version of the 1960s where like racism doesn't exist. Because if you introduce a race into the equation, Ben and that other guy who's a jackass, their dynamic would have been completely different if you had introduced race into the dialogue, but they don't. They just pretend that it doesn't exist in a way.
I will say before I give a point blank recommendation or not recommendation, there are a lot of people I think create their own self-fulfilling mental block when it comes to older movies. If it's pre-90s, that it's just going to be dated and cheesy and low quality and won't connect with them. I think this film should connect with everyone, and I think this is the movie where if you have a mental block about older films, this is a movie for you to overcome that and overcome your expectations for what an older film is, and recognize how many great older classic films have very, very compelling, emotional, realistic performances and exceptional cinematography and an exceptional sense of style and great representation and a fun, innovative world. So I think this is a film everyone should watch and should be able to enjoy. I think there's something here for everyone. It's great that the zombie genre was introduced with such a deserving title.
Definitely. Like, going off what Michael said, I would say this film doesn't even have as many blocks as other older films do. Like this older film, if older films are something that you have some kind of block or aversion to, this film meets you much more than halfway, I would say, just in terms of the storytelling and cinematography and performances of all the actors. Would definitely recommend this film. And in a lot of ways, I think it's an important film because it was eye-opening to me, given how big the zombie genre has become now. It was eye-opening for me to see the beginnings of it. And given that so many things in our culture tie back to things so far back that we could never see how they began, it's fascinating to see a genre where we can actually see very clearly preserved the beginnings of it. So I think it's an important film and a very good one. I would absolutely recommend to anyone, truly.
Yeah, I feel very similar to both of you, and I plan on going back and watching it again. It's an incredible movie. It's still very effective emotionally because you connect with the characters, and the writing for them it's like pretty solid. The cinematography and the lighting for it, like the dramatic cues, it was a surprise to me how much I ended up liking this movie and how much there were multiple scenes that actually affected me emotionally to where I was like shocked, or like I even messaged you guys afterwards wondering like what why. And it's something that's I feel like should be experienced by anyone who's still trying to go back and like look through older films, or people who are, even like Michael said, averted to older films. I feel like it deserves a shot and deserves to be watched by most anyone who's in the mood for anything scary or like classic.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Hey Jordan, what's next?
Up next, we have Beetlejuice. It's a 90s classic. Beetlejuice, 1988. Oh God, in the last episode, I said it was a 90s movie. How's that?
Good. Sounds great. Can't wait to watch it.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'll see you guys later. Like and subscribe and share and, just watch the videos. I think they're pretty fun. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll see you guys around.
Yeah.
Have a Merry Halloween.